Welcome, Diecast fans. I'm Tom Spanners Watson.
And I'm Frank the Guru Gibbs.
And we've got a hugely packed show for you tonight, so we're going to crack straight into it. As you know, we've been running the weekly competitions for the thumbnail. Congratulations to Widowmaker Run for this week's win. And thank you to everyone that had contributed. There's some really cool pickup trucks that we had submitted for this. Next week it'll be a Mustang. Alright, big news for us. We're finally kicking off the Canyon Outlaws competition. There'll be a video out this weekend to explain what that is. Keep an eye out for that. And What Game Now, or the Tabletop Sports Network, did a great interview with JD Elst on their channel. Have a look at that. It's a monster interview. It's like an hour and a half, but it's got lots of really cool stuff. And of course, the latest Diecast Racing report is out.
Okay, we're going to crack straight into the drag racing, and we're going to kick off with Tune Tracks Racing. So they did a Real Riders drag race this time round. So this is part of their Season 3 competition, and there was some brilliant races there, and really nice to see some real riders as well. I know there's been a lot of people asking about them and if anybody's racing them.
And then Josh over at Rust Belt Racing continued on with the Micro Machines drag racing, and it's a slightly curved track, not strict drag racing, but still a lot of fun to watch.
And then Cleveland City Diecast had his drag race series as well, and I just really like this track. He's got some great cameras set up along the track to catch the action and just makes you feel like you're really part of it.
GNR Vintage Diecast Racing had their open wheeler competition, and this is 12 lanes of absolute madness. Again, I don't know how he keeps track of all of the different cars and who's winning without going back and reviewing the video, because like it looks like they're really spread out. When you watch it real speed, it is actually very, very quick.
Diecast Dragger had his Friday Night Game Wars, and it was the big finale, and I love this race here where the white Corvette is really doing his best to block out the yellow Corvette, but the yellow one manages to push through somehow and then take the win. It was a brilliant bit of racing, and again I like that open style format for the drag track.
Summers Raceway did a 5-pack challenge series, which is quite cool. So it was basically a rip and run style, taking the 5 cars out of the pack, racing them, and then racing them down to the finish.
We Race Diecast had their exotics competition, and there were some great races. A little bit of dirty play as well. Just watch this white car, just like nails everybody out of his way to take the win. It's just brilliant.
Then Greatest of All Time Racing had some insanely close races. I mean, I thought this one was really close, but this next race was absolutely ridiculously close. Have a look at this. Who won that? Even when you watch it frame by frame, it's practically impossible to tell who actually won it. Just really tight drag racing.
M&M did something a little bit different this week. They took their track outside, and this was really cool. It was a bit longer than normal, and from the multi-lane to the 2-lane to the open lane, and man, these guys got wild. It's just some brilliant races. And just look at this. Look how fast that dude's going. Both those dudes are going on their roof. Oh, and another one. It's just brilliant.
High Forest Diecast Racing, one we haven't seen anything from for a while, had his drag racing going on. Have a look at that channel if you haven't checked it out yet.
Then Allside Diecast Racing continues on with his championship. And man, this death drop here is so brutal. Look at that, just bouncing off. But look at that Corvette. Lands it perfectly, screams off to the finish. And that's how you know you've got a good car and a good driver.
And then finally in drag racing tonight, Hawkeye Hauler Diecast did a series. Don't know if you noticed, there was the Flintstones car in there, and that bad boy is way too wide for the orange track and just didn't go anywhere. But a lot of fun to watch, and just straight up drag racing, good length track, really fun to watch.
Then into the tournaments, Mike over at RTR Diecast Racing League had his final for the Exotic Series, and this was just an absolutely brilliant race between Galactic Gangster and Philip de Tank. This particular race here, the lead changes 3 times. They come out of the first corner, Philip de Tank's in the lead. The second corner, Galactic Gangster gets the jump on him and then blows it right before the finish, and de Tank slips through for the win. and they were just changing position the whole time. It's absolutely fantastic.
Transport Diecast Racing had their final group, I believe, of the Miatas at the Crest qualifying runs, so expect to see those races actually kicking off soon. But interesting to see all these runs, and a good chance for you to go and pick out who you think is going to be the favourite to take it out.
Hot Wheels Calgary continues on with all of his daily races. So if you're jonesing for regular races, have a look at Hot Wheels Calgary. They have got tons and tons of content and lots of good racing. I mean, this is a huge track on just quite a small space, but lots of fun.
Then Nines Diecast did a 9-pack tournament. Now this track has been extended just recently. We showed it on Track Spy a couple of weeks back, but really cool to see. He's added in a couple of extra corners. So he goes in from the lanes to the fat track corner there, then the crash racer into another U-bend around, and then down to the finish. So gives him a little bit more time for racing, more time for overtaking. It's very cool to watch.
Indiana Diecast Racing moves on to the semi-finals of the IDR Open, and we like this race here because just watch this Honda Civic out front. He is blazing away from everybody, does a bit of a drift into that corner, comes around, and then for some reason gets his wheel up on the side, gets nailed by the GT40 and hit by every other car, but still makes it across the finish. It was brutal, but very cool. Look at that. Everybody did very well to get around him and get to the finish ahead of him. Very impressive bit of driving.
And then Poverty Hollow Raceway. So this was one that we put into Track Spy the other week as well. Great track. Lots of twists and turns and some very cool racing.
Alamo City Diecast Racing with the Circuit of Mayhem. This was one that goes through not so much a diorama, but just all this other paraphernalia from different collection sets. And if you actually spend the time to have a look at what's around the track, it's phenomenal what's there.
Alley Cat Race Club moved on with their series, and there's some great runs through there. Bit of carnage as they hit those S-bends and the track transitions, but still some good tight races, lots of action there.
Mac Mountain ran their live racing, and man, this was a tight race. Look at the speed pickup there and a 360.
Then Chaos Canyon was the final step of the Diecast International Race Series. Been a lot of fun. There was the Beauties race, which is this one here, and there was a bit of dirty play and payback going on there between Cross and Mike Mays, with the white car getting pushed wide and just absolutely caning into the trees and the rocks. And then Philip de Tank in the Challenger there, the grey car, getting underneath him, and then just a stunning drift around to avoid the other cars and get down to the finish line. And then in the Beast section, Glitch out in front there just was not having a good day, couldn't make it across the line, but some huge crashes and some very tight finishes. It was just so much fun. And then in the best of the best race, Cross with this incredible win here was just mind-blowing. So he drifts wide, hits the trees, blocks the track, gets nailed by every car, which is enough to actually give him enough pace to get down to the finish and take it out.
Sonora Diecast Racing continued on, and our favourite Wario there wasn't quite as crazy this time around as he has been in other races with wiping out and taking out the crowd and stuff, but still some very exciting racing there. Batman having a bit of a tough time in the old Batmobile, but a lot of fun to watch. And again, that tree in the middle of the track is just such a hazard, but so much fun.
And finally in tournaments, Rocky Mountain Diecast Racing League. These guys have kicked back into their season and lots of good action here. Some great overtakes last minute, and you see the green car well out in front spins, yellow car catches up, tries everything he can to overtake, but watch the back here, boom, last minute overtake. We'll see it in a slow-mo coming up. Such an awesome bit of driving that.
Then into street racing, 3D Boltmaker had lots of action on his track this week with this truck. Watch the FN 150 there just get absolutely munted off the track by the other car. Gets flipped and rolls it like 3 or 4 times. And here he does a barrel roll on track, comes down and actually gets around the carnage in front of him to take out the win. It was an absolutely stunning drive and a beautiful truck.
Then we've got Hot Car Track continues on with Road Warriors. This is season 2, so this is bigger than it was last year, and we were very excited to see an 8 crate. Unfortunately it got smashed, but this black truck actually has real rider tyres on the rear of it. Very interesting to see how that does through the rest of the competition.
Then back to Rust Belt Racing for their Fat Track Grocery Getter 250. Now this particular track has that huge jump in it, and watch this, the white car well out in front, takes the jump badly, crashes, but then look how the other car just avoids him. A beautiful bit of driving there.
Hot Wheels boys had a head-to-head with a Bugatti Veyron versus the Jesco, and just some very tight races in there. A lot of fun to watch. See who took out the championship there.
DRC Racing is down to the thin end of the wedge on their yard race course. And we love this particular race because they changed position a couple times, and then that purple truck just hits the gas right at the end to storm away for the win.
Then War on I-4 did something a little bit different this week. Same track as before, but they've added in some mid-race jumps, so there's about 3 or 4 little jumps along the track. Caused a bit of chaos, but made for some very interesting racing.
Then Chapman Films had their Halloween special, and I just love this Bone Shaker versus Cyclone, and that Bone Shaker is absolutely beautiful. A lot of fun there.
Special events, Big Poppy continued on with the Diecast Olympics basically, and it was round 2 of the Fat Track Free-For-All. That is not easy to say quickly, I can tell you. But look at the way too fast. It was well out in front, and then it was an absolute scrap down the final 2 straights.
Live Young Diecast debuted his Baja track, so we had this last week in Frank's garage, and today we actually got to see it racing, and it was so much fun. Obviously, we're fans of jumps at the canyon, and I like this short track. There's lots of interest, lots of things that can happen, a lot of fun.
And then Checkered Flag Contention had a bus race, which was a lot of fun. Now, check this one out. This was the one we chose because this bus just takes everybody out. Anyone tries to overtake him, he just runs them down. It was so funny.
Then Frank's garage, we go back to Evo Sparks and this beautiful model of the Ford Ranger Raptor. It is an absolutely stunning example. Now, it's not 1/64th scale, that's not what he's doing there, but it's a great model to have a look at.
Pacific Rim Speedway is under construction currently. Have a look at the build journal for it over on redlinederby.com. It is going to be a very cool track. It's going to have kaiju battling through a dystopian city. It sounds really cool. Really looking forward to seeing that come to life. And it's a great build journal. And then the Amigos debuted their new track. So they still have their other raceway, but they're building 2 other tracks. So it should be a lot of fun to see what happens with those.
And Crash of the Week, those of you that watched the Canyon race would have guessed this had to be Crash of the Week. Look at Jason Paul in the station wagon in the background here. He comes down, cartwheels, goes for a high bounce and does a full 360 in the air. So there's the 180 cartwheel, a full 360 into another 180, and then lands on the roof at the Way Too Fast.
Alright, that has been another huge week for us here at Chaos Canyon. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to head over to redlinederby.com to put all your races, check out what else is going on, your build journals, make sure your tracks are listed there. There's lots of great information. And if you want to be in next week's custom car photo competition for the thumbnail on next week's DSPN, make sure you get your custom Mustangs in to the forum on chaoscanyon.online. Well, that is definitely enough for tonight. I'm Tom Spanners Watson, he's Frank the Guru Gibbs. We'll see you next time.